I'd like to welcome in Neama Rahmani, a former federal prosecutor and current president at the Los Angeles West Coast Lawyers. Neama, thank you so much for your time today. All right, let's just start with this fact. The defense opting not to call a single witness, 0 witnesses. Are you surprised, or do you think that is a strategy that ultimately makes sense?
Nicole, it was the defense strategy, but it certainly changed over time. Initially, they asked for 2 full weeks for their defense case. Then they went down to 2 days. And ultimately, they used just 30 minutes. And that 30 minutes was used to put in more text messages from victims Cassie and Jane, where they were communicating with Diddy and the sex workers, setting up these freak offs in the hotel night. So the defense thinks that based on the cross examination, based on those messages, and based on the freak off videos themselves, which seem to show these women enjoying themselves sexually, that they poked enough holes in the prosecution's case to raise reasonable doubt. And of course, Mark Agnifilo is trying to bring that home with his closing argument this afternoon.
All right, so Neema, the defense, of course, as you just mentioned, they're presenting closing arguments today. What is most important for Diddy's team during closing?
Nicole, the most important thing is racketeering, and this is why. I think the defense has a good shot of getting not guilty or maybe even a hung jury on sex trafficking because there does seem to be this argument that at least some of this activity was consensual. And prostitution, I think, is really in the bag for the prosecution. The defense hasn't really addressed it yet in their closing arguments. But look, if the government only gets a prostitution conviction here, this is going to be a big waste of time. It's going to be a slap on the wrist for Diddy. So racketeering, in my opinion, is going to make or break the case. And it's a stronger argument than the government has with respect to sex trafficking. So you see Agnifilo going through each of those racketeering counts. He's talking about drug trafficking and distribution, saying that it was personal use. He's talking about arson, saying that there's no evidence that Diddy blew up Kid Cudi's car. He actually wanted to fist fight him. He's talking about bribery and saying that the $100,000 paid to the hotel security guard, that wasn't intended to influence a police investigation. That was just for bad PR. And then the kidnapping, he's arguing that Capricorn Clark was not kidnapped. And even if she was, it wasn't Combs himself. It was his staff that took her to that office and submitted her to lie detector tests after multiple days.
All right, so Neema, we just heard from Laura Ingle there, who has been paying attention to this, and following this trial, obviously, since it started. She just said there that jurors, at least some of them, seemed to be nodding along to what the defense attorney is saying. Is that telling to you?
It is potentially when you have jurors who are nodding along to what the defense attorney is saying. And look, Mark Agnifilo, he's one of the best in the country. His wife is representing Luigi Mangione there in New York. So really all-star husband and wife defense team. But I'm a former federal prosecutor, so I'm hoping that the government can come back and rebuttal and really shift the narrative here and say this wasn't overreach and overcharging. This is rape and this is sex trafficking. And here's someone who thought that he was above the law, whether it's physical violence, sexual violence, kidnapping, arson, drugs. I mean, you name it. He's running a criminal enterprise just like any other gangster. So hopefully we'll see what the assistant U.S. attorney does in her rebuttal.
All right, so what do you think, Neema? The prosecution obviously wrapped up closing arguments yesterday. Do you think they did a good job, of kind of putting a bow on their 6 weeks of testimony, 6 weeks of evidence?
Nicole, I think they did a good job in their closing, but there were some serious mistakes that they made in their case in chief. One of their victims, Gina, went sideways. She didn't show up at trial. Another prior bad acts witness that they litigated to try to bring in another victim, ultimately they didn't call. And I think the biggest mistake that they made is they didn't call KK, Christina Horam, and D-Rock. That is Combs's former chief of staff and his security. They were actively involved in the obstruction, the drug trafficking, the bribery. And if I were prosecuting this case, one of the things that makes RICO so powerful is you can bring a lot of people and a lot of evidence into a case. So I would have either charged them or I would have leaned on them to flip against their former employer. Now, they did call 6 personal assistants, but I think those individuals were higher up in the enterprise. And I think it would have been important for the jurors to hear from them.
All right, really quickly here, Neema, obviously this comes down to the jury. We can speculate all day, but I mean, what do you think happens? Do you think Sean Combs is found guilty of any of these charges, all of them, none of them?
Nicole, I'll shoot my shot and I'll tell you what my prediction is right now. Guilty on prostitution, guilty on RICO and racketeering, not guilty or hung on sex trafficking. So split verdict, but still a win for the government.
All right, Neama Rahmani, thank you. We appreciate it.
Thanks, Nicole. Talk soon.